Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karunya Gana Ganatvam Samsaradava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karunya Gana Ganatvam Prapta Sakalyana Gurnana Vasya Bande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Gurnana Vasya Bande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Bande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Bande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Guru Shri Charanarvindam Bande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nitya Gita Baditramadhyam Manasura Sena Mahaprabhu Baditramadhyam Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhaju Bande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Taranga Bhaju Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingaratanama Niramajanado Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Juktasya Bhaktam Sa Niyunjatopi Bande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Juktasya Bande Guru Shri Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasadu Satvana Truptam Hari Bhakta Sangam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasadu Satvana Truptam Hari Bhakta Sangam Kritvaiva Trupti Bhajato Sadeva Bande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Shiradikama Prabhayaraparam Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namnam Shiradikama Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namnam Pratikchanasva Dhanalalupasya Bande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Ram Ne Kunjayuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jayali Vir Jukti अपेक्षणीय निकुंजयुग्म प्रतिकेरिसिता जाजाविवेरयुक्ते अपेक्षणीय तत्र तिदाक्ष अतिबलवस्य वन्दे गुरश्री चरणरविन्दं तत्रातिदाक्ष अतिबलवस्य सख्याधरितेन समस्तशास्त्रेण रुक्ता तथाव गतैव साधुभिः सख्यधरि रुक्ता तथाव किन्तु प्रभोज प्रियैव तस्य वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणरविन्दम् प्रिया एव तस्य यस्य प्रसाद भगवत्प्रसाद यस्य प्रसादं नागति कुतपि यस्य प्रसाद भगवत्प्रसाद यस्य प्रसाद नागति कुतपि ध्यायां स्तुवं तस्य यस्त्रिसन्ध्यं वन्दे गुरुश्री चरणरविन्दं ध्यायां स्तुवं तस्य यस्त्रिसन्ध्यं वन्दे गुरुश्री चरणरविन्दं वन्दे गुरुश्री चरणरविन्दं वन्दे नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदान्तं स्वामिनिति नामिने नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदान्तं नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरि गौर भक्तवृंद श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य नित्यानंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Gaur Nityananda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Hero Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govindaram Shrimadusudam Giridhari Gopina Madana Mohana Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Shri Radha Nila Madhava Radha Nila Madhava Radhe Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Balade, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra, Jagannatha, Baladeva, Subhadrama, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram. Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram Lakshmana Hanuman, Jaya Sitaram. Neta Haribol Nitai Gaur Haribol. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Prabhu Jakacharya Astuttara Sarasishimad, His Divine Grace, Avhacharamina Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Pratishta Vividi Samstapakacharya Vaishnava Siromani Patita Pavana, Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Gaurya Guru Varga Patitu Udhari Ki Jai, Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhattara Gunata Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिव सरि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय, जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय, प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद श्रीमन गौरांग श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावृंदाय अवतार की जय, गोलोकेर प्रमदान हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय, जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय, बृहत मिदंग ट्रांसलेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय, शिष्य राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपना राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय, श्री ब्रज भूमि वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय, तेलोशिव शिष्य राधा नील माधव की जय, श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय, परम करुणा श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय, श्री पुरुषोत्तम चित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय, भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशन कर श्रृंगरे भगवान की जय, सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय, जगंगा माई जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय, श्रीमती राधा रानी की जय, समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय, Nitai Gaurari Pramanande Haribo. All glories to the assembled bodies. All glories to the assembled bodies. All glories to the assembled bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Haribo. Namaste Narasimhaya
Prahlada Lada Dahine
Prahlada Dahine
Hiranyakashipurashaha
Hiranyakashipurashaha
Shilatankanakalahaye
Shilatankanakalahaye
Ito nasimha patpato nasimho
Ito nisimha parato nisimha
Yato yato yamitato nasimha
Jata jata jamitato nisimha
Bahir nasimha hidahe nasimha
Bahir nisimha hridaye nisimha
Narasingamadi sharanamapade
Narasingamadi sharanamapade
Tabakara kamalavare nakam abudashingam dalita hiranyakashipu pranabhringam keshavadita narahari rupa jai jagadisha hare jai jagadisha hare jai jagadisha hare
Tabakara kamalavare nakam adbhuta shingha Dalita Hiranyakasipo Talavinga Visabalita Naradirupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re
Jaya Narasimha Dev Jaya Narasimha Dev Jaya Narasimha Dev Jaya Narasimha Dev
Jaya Nishinga Dev Jaya Nishinga Dev Jaya Nishinga Dev Jaya Nishinga Dev
Jaya Bhakta Pehla Jaya Bhakta Pehla Jaya Bhakta Pehla Jaya Prahlad Maharaj
Jaya Bhakta Pala Jaya Bhakta Pala Jaya Bhakta Pala Jaya Pala
Jai Singh Dev ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai
Jai Shri Shri Bhakti Parasara Vignashana Kanishingare Bhagavan ki Jai Bhakta Shrestha Prahlad Maharaj ki Jai Gaura Pramanande Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrindari ki Jai
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namo
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namo
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Bilashi
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Bilasi
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Bilashi
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Bilasi
Je tomara sharan lo च पूर्ण होए।
जे तुम्हारा शरणना तारा बंचा पूर्ण
कृपा कोरी करो तारे वृंदावनवासी।
तुम्हें कृपा करे कर तारे वृंदावनवासी।
मोरा अभिलाष विलास कुंजे दियो बा।
मोरा विलास कुंजे दियोबा।
नयने हेरिबो सदा जुगल रूपरासी।
अमिनायने हेरी सदा जुगल रूपरासी।
ए निवेदन धर सखीरानुगत करो।
ए निवेदन धर सखीरानुगत
करो सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी।
सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी।
दीन कृष्ण दास कोए नमोरा होए।
दीन कृष्ण दास कोए नमोरा हो।
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदाए नवासी।
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 तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः। तुलसी कृष्ण
प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे।
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मात्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे।
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे। यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे। हरे कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
जयो तुलसी महारानी जयो तुलसी महारानी जयो तुलसी महारानी जयो तुलसी महारानी।
जय तुलसी महारानी, जय तुलसी महारानी, तुलसी महारानी, जय तुलसी महारानी।
जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी।
जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा
हरि बोल
निताई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल
निताई गौर हरि बोल। जय वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय।
जय श्री वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय पियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की। O Tulasi, beloved of Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you as wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower carrying the answers of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own met servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise, may I always swim in love with Shri Radha and Govind. Shri Mati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna ki jai. Namo Mahavadana Krishna Prema Pradaya Krishna Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life or the period of birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There is not even hard and fast rule for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by holy names. But I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than straw in the street, one should be more tolerant than the street, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotion, service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up and will the hairs on my body stand on end the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri 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 Kestakam ki. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that must be avoided. They are as follows. 1. Blaspheme, body to dedicate the life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To mention the names of demigods and lordship to be equal, independent of notions. 3. To develop the order of the spiritual master. 4. Blaspheme, develop the literature or literature and pursuance of education. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna in the imagination. 6. To give some interpretation. 7. To commit sinful activities and strength chanting holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities of Vedas and fruitive activity karma kanda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about the glories of holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names, to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It also an offense to be entertained while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success. Krishna prema. Now let us offer our respectful obeisance unto all the Vaishnavas who worship the Lord. They are just like desired trees, they can fulfill the desire of everyone, and they are full of compassion to the fallen conditioned souls. Pancha Ananta Puja Vaishnava. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Janmadhyasya yatam vayaritarataschate swavigasva.
Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye Muyati Atsuraya.
Tene Brahma Vidaya Adhikavaye Mujanti Jasuraya. Tejo Parim Vida Jata Vinamayo Jatra Trisargam Risya. Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyang Param Dhimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth, the primeval cause of all causes,
The creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes.
of the creation, sustenance, destruction of the manifested universes.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
And he is independent because there's no other cause beyond him.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond
It is
him.
he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji,
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji,
the original living being.
the original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
By him even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representations
As one is bewildered by the illusory
of the
representation.
material world, as one is bewildered by the illusory representation of water seen on fire or land seen on water.
One is bewildered by the illusory representation of water in the fire, of land in the water.
Only because of him do the material universes,
Only because of him do the material universe.
temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature,
Temporarily manifested by the reaction of the three modes of nature.
appear factual, although they are unreal.
Appear factual, although they are real.
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna,
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri
who is
Krishna,
eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world.
which is forever free from the illusory representation of material world.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Dharma projita kaichovocha,
Dharma prajita kaitavutra,
paramo nirmatsaranam satam,
paramo nirmasharanam satam,
vidyam vastavam atravastu,
vidyam vastavam ashravastu,
shivadam tapatrayon bulanam,
shivadam taputrayo,
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamani Krite,
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni,
Kim va purer Ishwaraha,
Kim va paririshvaraha,
Sadyo Hridi Avrudyate cha,
Sadyo Rudya Rudya
Kriti
Vadidita,
Bihi Sususabhistakshanat,
Kritibhi Shushushu Vistatyanat,
completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
completely rejecting all religious activities which are material motivated.
This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth,
This Bhagavad Purana propounds the high truth,
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The highest truth, the reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
Such truth uproots the threefold miseries.
Such a truth uproots the threefold miseries.
This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity,
This is a beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva's maturity.
is sufficient in itself for God realization.
It's sufficient itself for God realization.
What is the need of any other scripture?
What is the name of the other scripture?
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
As soon as one attentively submissively hear the message of Bhagavatam,
by this culture of knowledge,
this culture of
the
knowledge,
Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigama kalpatarur galitam phalam,
Nigama kalpadota
sukhamukad amrita dravya samyatam,
Shukamukad Mritatravasan
pibata Bhagavatam rasam alayam,
Pibata Bhagavatam Samaraya
muhur aho raska bhuvibhavukaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam,
O expert and thoughtful man, relish Shema
the
Bhagavatam,
mature fruit of the desire to Vedic literatures.
the mature fruit of the desire to Vedic literature.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadev Goswami.
It emanated from the lips of Shishukadev Goswami.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful,
Therefore, this food has become even more tasteful.
even though although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
including liberated souls.
including liberated souls.
Shinvatam Swakata Krishna.
Shrivantam Swakata Krishna.
Punya Shravana Kirtana.
Punya Shravana Kirtana.
Hidyantakstohi Abhadrani.
Vidyantastohi Abhadrani.
Vidunati Srihitsatam.
Vidunati Suritsatam.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literature,
or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
or to hear from it directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
is a self-righteous activity.
it is self-righteous activity.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
For one who hears about Krishna,
Lord Krishna is dwelling in everyone's heart,
Lord Krishna, who is dwelling within everyone's heart,
acts as a best-wishing friend,
acts as the best wishing friend,
and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
and purifies the devotee who constantly engage in hearing of him.
Nasta presu abhadresu
Nasta prayishra bhadresu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
nityam bhagavata seva
bhagavati tamasloke
bhagavati uttamasloke
bhaktir bhavati naistaki.
bhaktir bhavati naistiki.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
In this way, devotee naturally develops dormant transcendental knowledge.
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
and from the devotees,
and from the devotees,
he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
he becomes fixed in devotional service of the Lord.
Tatarajastamo bhava
Tadarajastamo bhava
kamalopadayasche
kamalobhadayasya
cheta etar anavidam
cheta etarana
stitvam sattve prasidati.
stam.
By development of devotional service,
By development of devotional service,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion of
and
ignorance,
thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
Evam prasanna manaso
Evam prasanna manasa
bhagavat bhakti yogataha
bhagavat bhakti yoga
bhagavat tattva vijnanam
bhagavat tattva vijnanam
mukta sangasya jayate.
mukta sanghasya jayate.
When these impurities are wiped away,
When these impurities are wiped
the
away,
candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
and understands the science of God
and
perfectly.
understands the science of God.
Vidyate hridayat grantis,
Vidyate hridaya granthi,
chidyante sarvasamsaya,
chidyante sarvasamsaya,
siyante chasya karmani,
chidyante chasya karmani,
drista evat manishvari.
Manishwari.
Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the heart not of material affection,
Thus the Bhakti Yoga serves the heart not to material
and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram,
and enable one to come at once to the stage of Assumption Samangram,
understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead.
understanding the supreme absolute true personality of Godhead.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from devoted to Krishna consciousness
can one understand the science of Krishna.
can one understand the science of Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 19, verse number 21.
22.
Is it 22?
Yep.
Ashrutyatad rishi ganavat shapakrisit
Ashruchadadrishi gana vacha parikhe
samam madhuchud guru chavyalikam
samam madhuchu guru chavyalikam
abhasatainan abhinandyat uktam
abhashatainan abhinandhya yukta
susru samanas charitani Vishnu.
shushu shamanas charitani Vishnu.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. All that was spoken by the great sages was very sweet to hear, full of meaning, and appropriately presented as perfectly true. So after hearing them, Maharaj Parikshit, desiring to hear of the activities of Lord Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, congratulated the great sages. Okay, there's no purport, so we'll go on to the next verse. Samagata sarvata eva sarve
Samagata sarvata eva sarve
Veda yata murti daras chipriste
Vedayata murti darastri prishte
Nehataha namutracha kachanarta
Nihatana mutra chakachanartha
Rite paranugraham atmasilam.
Rite paranugraham atmasilam.
Translation. The king said, O great sages, you have all very kindly assembled here. Having come from all parts of the universe, you are all as good as supreme knowledge personified, who resides in the planet above the three worlds, Satyaloka. Consequently, you are naturally inclined to do good to others. But for this, you have no interest, either in this life or in the next. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. 6 kinds of opulences, namely wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, are all originally the different attributes pertaining to the absolute personality of Godhead. The living beings, who are part and parcel entities of the Supreme Being, have all these attributes partially, up to the full strength of 78%. In the material world, these attributes, up to 78% of the Lord's attributes, are covered by the material energy as the sun is covered by a cloud. The covered strength of the sun is very dim compared to the original glare, and similarly, the original color of the living beings with such attributes becomes almost extinct. There are 3 planetary systems, namely the lower worlds, the intermediate worlds, and the upper worlds. The human beings on Earth are situated at the beginning of the intermediate world, but living beings like Brahma and his contemporaries live in the upper worlds, of which the topmost planet is Satyaloka. In Satyaloka, the inhabitants are fully cognizant of Vedic wisdom, and thus the mystic cloud of material energy is cleared. Therefore, they are known as Vedas personified. Such persons, being fully aware of knowledge both mundane and transcendental, have no interest in either the mundane or transcendental worlds. They are practically desireless devotees. In the mundane world, they have nothing to achieve, and in the transcendental world, they are full in themselves. Then why do they come to the mundane world? They descend on different planets as messiahs by the order of the Lord to deliver the fallen souls. On the earth, they come down to do good to the people of the world in different circumstances, under different climatic influences. They have nothing to do with this world save and except reclaim the fallen souls, rotting in material existence, deluded by material energy. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So here we see, first of all, the qualities of the great sages that have come to witness the leaving of Maharaj Parikshit of his body, and the association of Sri Sukadev Goswami. And the best way to leave the body is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. The best way to live in the body and to leave the body is by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. That's if you want to have first-class life. So the sages, Maharaj Parikshit welcomed the sages, and then the sages also spoke with language that was very sweet to hear, full of meaning, and appropriately presented as perfectly true. So now the sage is set that Maharaj Parikshit can hear uniquely about Lord Shri Krishna. And that is a sign of a pure devotee who doesn't want to hear anything else except what is uniquely pertinent to Krishna. In fact, the vision of a devotee is to see everything in relationship with Krishna. That is spiritual vision. And material vision is to see everything separated from Krishna, to not see Krishna related in any way to anything. So there's a big gulf of difference between spiritual vision and material vision. So now, Maharaj Pariksit said, O sages, you have all very kindly assembled here, having come from all parts of the universe. You are all as good as supreme knowledge personified. So we see that previously the great sages and great personalities and demigods visited the earth regularly because the king of the earth was a pious king, a devotee. Therefore, they wanted to share their association and get the association of such a exalted personality. So, what does Maharaj Pariksit say? He says, you are all as good as supreme knowledge personified. That's a very great honor. Who resides in the planet above the three worlds, or Satyaloka. Consequently, you are naturally inclined to do good to others. So, one who does good is never overcome by evil, and also para upakar. One's purpose in life should be not only to help oneself, but to do good to others. And here that's translated as para anugraham, doing good to atma silam, own nature. So one should learn to do good to others. That way there's no envy, there's no jealousy, there's no, let's say, vicious competition, because one has no desire for self-aggrandizement, only simply to do good to others. So, therefore, living beings, the jivas like us, we can develop up to 78% of the qualities of Krishna. And then superior beings, such as Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, can go somewhat higher. Lord Brahma can attain 78% because he's a jiva, but Lord Shiva can go up to 84% of the qualities of Krishna because he is between the material and spiritual worlds, and he's a devotee of the Lord, but has a slight tinge of ignorance. And above that is Lord Narayana, who has 96% of the attributes of Krishna, and then there's Krishna, who has full 100%. I once explained this to one Sri Vaishnava, and he rejected it. He said, "This is nonsense, what you said." There's no such thing as 96% or 100%. He says there's nothing like that. Another time I explained something to this Muslim and to a Sikh grunty on a television, on a radio program, and I said, not the same point, but I said that, as one surrenders unto Krishna, he proportionately reveals himself to the devotee. And the others said, this is nonsense, there's no such thing. So you see, nonsense people will reject direct statements by Krishna. That's how you know who someone is real or not real, or who's pretending to be a spiritualist but actually has very incomplete knowledge. So those are little tests you can recite a verse exactly right from Bhagavad Gita, and they'll say, no, I don't accept that. That's nonsense. So if you want to test someone, you can do that. So the living beings who are part and parcel entities of Supreme Being have all these attributes partially up to the full strength of 78%. So, therefore, now we know what our potential is. Our potential is to, like Lord Brahma, to have up to 78% of the attributes of Lord Krishna. That's extremely, extremely, let's say, great achievement if someone can do that. And but instead of looking at things as a ladder going up, one can rather should understand what is the goal of all that. Because one can become, if you're going up the stairs, you can get tired or you can get puffed up and stop at a certain stage of going up. But if you understand what the actual goal is, just like one time I met this person just walking down Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley, California, and I saw a very old man walking. And I stopped him and I said, "Sir, how old are you?" He said, "Why you want to know?" I said, "I don't know. I like to get wisdom from older people. You're obviously much older than me, so you must know more about life than I do." He said, "Oh," he said, "you're an intelligent boy." I said, "So how old are you?" He said, "I'm 96. I said, "Do you have anything to tell me?" He said, "Yeah." "You know how to climb a mountain?" I said, "No, I never did it." "Ah," I said, "then you have something to learn from me." He said, "The secret is, when you're climbing the mountain, never look down. Always look up to the summit. If you look down, you might get dizzy, you might get afraid, you might fall. If you keep looking up, you'll keep your mind on the goal to arrive at the top, and you'll make it safely." I said, "Huh." I said, "I'm glad I stopped you." I said, "That's a very important point that you made to me, and I'm never going to forget it." He said, "Okay." And then we started talking some more, and I finally got him to come to the temple in Berkeley, and I gave him some prasadam. And he was a little suspicious about all that, but he accepted it because we had become friends, and I listened to his life story somewhat. But he was a very interesting man. And it's a fact that people who are older, normally, if they go through the normal cycle of life, they have some wisdom because they've lived so long. Whether that wisdom is Krishna conscious or not, it doesn't matter. What matters is we should always respect our elders. If they're nonsense, they'll reveal it by the way they talk. And if they have some genuine realization, well, we can take the truth from even an unclean source. That's another proverb, Vedic proverb. So yesterday, there was something that I didn't finish discussing, and it leads into this subject today. So that's a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it is this verse says, "When persons eager to achieve liberation renounce things which are related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, though they are material, this is called incomplete renunciation." Okay, so this is in the purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 7:13-32, and it says, "Money that can help in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement is not a part of the material world, and we should not give it up, thinking that it is material." Srila Rupa Goswami advises, "Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjitaha Krishna nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yukta vairagyam uchyate." When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-255. Money is undoubtedly coming in great quantities. So Prabhupada's talking about ISKCON now. But we should not be attached to this money for sense gratification. Every cent should be spent for spreading the Krishna consciousness movement, not for sense gratification. There is danger for a preacher when he receives great quantities of money, for as soon as he spends even a single cent of the collection for his personal sense gratification, he becomes a fallen victim. And Prabhupada has repeated that in Perfect Questions and Perfect Answers when he was talking to Bob Cohen, who became later on Brahmatirtha Das. He explained to Bob Cohen that on the good auspices of Krishna consciousness, people will give money. And he said, and if the money is spent for Krishna for advancing Krishna consciousness, that is the proper use. But even if a person takes one, what's the smallest Indian, 1 paisa, you said. You didn't say 1 cent, because that's worth more than a paisa, right? He said 1 paisa, you'll go to hell for sense gratification. So there's a very strict caveat there of what we can do and what we can't do in Krishna consciousness. So he says, there is danger for a preacher when he receives great quantities of money. For as soon as he spends even a single cent of the collection for his personal sense gratification, he becomes a fallen victim. The preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement should be extremely careful not to misuse the immense quantities of money needed to spread this movement. Let us not make this money the cause of our distress. It should be used for Krishna, and that will cause our eternal happiness. Money is Lakshmi, or the goddess of fortune, the companion of Narayana. Lakshmi must always remain with Narayana, and then there need be no fear of degradation. So you see the vision of a pure devotee like Prabhupada. He's saying, this money, this dollar, or this rupee, this is actually Lakshmi Devi. And therefore it should only be used in the service of Narayana. And if you don't do that, then you go to hell. Even 1 paisa misused in Krishna's service will get you a free elevator ride down. One time I was talking with a brother, one of my brothers, and his wife had died. And I asked him, you think she went up or down? And he said, oh, no, she must have gone up. She was a movie star. And so my other brother and I looked at each other. We started laughing. And my other brother said, are you kidding? She went down for sure. So anyway, this going up or down is an important point in life. This money is Lakshmi. So this is the way a devotee sees things. And we should learn to see things like Srila Prabhupada. So this is also explained much more in depth in the 7th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, verses 52 to 55. So in verses 51 and 52, Prahlad Maharaj says, when he's preaching to his classmates, they're very young, and every time the demon teachers would leave the room, he would start preaching to the kids, his classmates. And he says, my dear friends, O sons of the demons, you cannot please the Supreme Personality of Godhead by becoming perfect brahmanas, demigods, or great saints, or by becoming perfectly good in etiquette or vast learning. None of these qualifications can awaken the pleasure of the Lord, nor by charity, austerity, sacrifice, cleanliness, or vows can one satisfy the Lord. The Lord is pleased only if one has unflinching, unalloyed devotion to Him. Without sincere devotional service, everything is simply a show. And Prabhupada in the purport says, Prahlad Maharaj concludes that one can become perfect by serving the Supreme Lord sincerely by all means. Material elevation to life as a brahmana, demigod, rishi, and so on are not causes for developing love of Godhead. But if one sincerely engages in service of the Lord, his Krishna consciousness, or his or her Krishna consciousness, is complete. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9:30. Apichet suraracharo bhajanti mam ananyabhag sadur eva samantavya samyak vyavasito hi saha. Even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. To develop unalloyed love for Krishna is the perfection of life. Other processes may be helpful, But if one does not develop his love for Krishna, these other processes are simply a waste of time. Dharma swanustitak pumsa visvaksena katasya atpadya yadir atim shama evahi kevalam. Bhagavad Gita 1, 2, 11, I think. 8, I'm sorry. Okay. And it says, duties or dharma executed by men, regardless of occupation, are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction from the message of the Supreme Lord. Bhagavad Gita 1.2.8. The test of perfection of is one's unalloyed devotion to the Lord. So, this, of course, is also explained in the previous verse, where it says that the highest perfection of life is to attain pure love for the Lord. Or as Lord Chaitanya said, Prema Pumartha Mahan, the highest perfection of life is pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So then next verse, 7.753, my dear friends, O sons of the demons, so Prahlad Maharaj is continuing to talk to his classmates. In the same favorable way that one sees himself and takes care of himself, take to devotional service to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present everywhere as the super soul of all living entities. So now, basically, Prahlad Maharaj is giving these kids, in a very short, summary way, the real purpose of life. My dear, and he says, Prabhupada writes, the word atmo pamyena refers to thinking of others to be like oneself. Okay, so this is the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? So, but this is explained as atmo pamyena sarvatra sarva bhutat manishware. So this is the golden rule written way before the Bible and other books of wisdom. Atmo pamyena sarvatra sarva bhutat manishware. The word atmo pamyena refers to thinking others to be like oneself. One can very intelligently conclude that without devotional service, without becoming Krishna conscious, one cannot be happy. Therefore, the duty of all devotees is to preach Krishna consciousness everywhere, all over the world, because all living entities without Krishna consciousness are suffering the pangs of material existence. To preach Krishna consciousness is the best welfare activity. One time, I've told this before, in Paris, there was a class by Srila Prabhupada, and all the devotees were there, and it was at the same time that he had installed Radha Parish Ishwara, and everyone was really in ecstasy. And during the class, he asked the leader of the temple to give the class, or at least some part of the class. So the devotee was speaking. At one point, he said, and Krishna consciousness is not welfare activity. And Prabhupada stopped him. He said, no, he said, Krishna consciousness is the best welfare activity. And that's what he's saying here also. He says, therefore, the duty of all devotees is to preach Krishna consciousness everywhere, all over the world, because all living entities without Krishna consciousness are suffering the pangs of material existence. To preach Krishna consciousness is the best welfare activity. There it is. And he corrected the devotee. He stopped him and corrected him. Indeed, it is described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as para upakar. So para upakar means do good to others. You notice the word good. There's a lot of good. Being good, thinking good, wishing good, doing good, planning for good, etc. That should be the, let's say, the soft preaching way. And the hard preaching way, or direct preaching way, is Krishna consciousness is the greatest welfare activity that one can do. So there's a soft way of preaching and the direct way of preaching. So anyway, Mahaprabhu, Srimad Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as para upakar, work for the true benefit of others. There it is. That's the definition of para upakar. The activities of para upakar have been especially entrusted to those who have taken birth in India as human beings. Bharata bhumite hayala manushya janmakar janmasartak karikara para upakar. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 9.41. So now, I was not born in India, right? But guess who was born in India? Right? All of you, right? So now you're going to hear what your duty is, given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The entire world is suffering for want of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised all human beings born in India to make their lives perfect by Krishna consciousness and then preach the gospel of Krishna consciousness all over the world so that others may become happy by executing the principles of Krishna consciousness. So there you go. If anybody ever says, "Oh, I don't know what to do," now you know. You look up Srimad Bhagavatam 7.7.53, and this is what you, who are born in India, should do. This doesn't mean that you should earn billions of dollars and die and leave it all to your dog. No, that's not the purpose of life. The purpose of life is what we just read. Bharata bhumite haila manushya janmayar janmasarta karikara para upakar. You should learn Krishna consciousness, perfect your life by Krishna consciousness, and preach the gospel of Krishna consciousness all over the world so that others may become happy by executing the principles of Krishna consciousness. Then he quotes another, and then the next verse is 7.7.54. Prahlad Maharaj continues, "O my friends, O sons of demons, everyone, including you, the yakshas and rakshasas, the unintelligent women, Sudras and cowherd men, the birds, the lower animals, and the sinful living entities can revive his or her original eternal spiritual life and exist forever simply by accepting the principles of Bhakti Yoga." Now see, this is a very important verse because it shows clearly what Krishna consciousness is. And it dispels any misconceptions about Krishna consciousness. Now, I'm going to read one major misconception, and that is 9th chapter, 32nd verse. Mam hi partha vyapasritya tepi syu papayonaha striyo vaisas tata sudras tepiyanti param gatim. So this word striya means women. So in this verse, that same word is there. It says, Striya Sudra Rajo Kasha. And the word Striya is translated as women. But look how he translates it. He says, "O my friends, O sons of demon, everyone including you, the yakshas and rakshasas, the unintelligent women, Sudras and cowherd men, the birds, the lower animals, and the sinful living beings can revive his original eternal spiritual life and exist forever simply by accepting the principles of Bhakti Yoga." So whenever he uses the word striya in context of this verse, it's 9:32, and it's here, the Srimad Bhagavatam 7.7.54, he means unintelligent women. That means women who are prostitutes, women who are engaged in all kinds of sinful activities and eating meat, gambling, illicit sex, and so forth. That's who he's talking about. He's not talking about devotee women, right? So therefore, Radharani is not a low-class woman, right? And Sita Devi is not a low-class woman. And anyone who's Krishna consciousness is not a low-class woman if they're behaving properly. And just like men, they are not low-class Sudras or low-class workers So here, instead of saying, he said, Striya Sudras Vrojo Kasha. So Striya means women, of course. Sudra means lower class, and Raja Okasha means village cowherd men. So he's not saying the Vaishyas, the Sudras, and the women are devotees. He's saying these are low-class people. So, but what does the verse say? Striyo Vaishyas tata Sudras tipiyanti param gatim. All of these people, although they're not in a good position and they're impure, they can all become pure devotees. So, many people, not many people, but some people read the translations and they think, oh, Prabhupada insulted women. No, he didn't insult women, and Krishna does not insult women. But you have to understand what he's talking about, or what's being talked about. These are people who are engaged in sinful activity, the Vaishyas, the Sudras, and certain classes of women. But it doesn't include devotees. It doesn't include people who are living and following the rules and regulations of Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. It includes those people who are living, performing sinful activities. Okay, so then we continue. The Lord is infallible in the material world because he is the supreme spiritual person. Similarly, the jivas, who are part and parcel of the Lord, can also become, that's very insignificant, infallible, meaning perfect. Although Prahlada's mother was in the conditional state and was the wife of a demon, even yakshas, rakshasas, women, meaning fallen women or low-class women, sudras, and even birds and other lower living entities can be elevated to the Achyuta Gotra, the family of Krishna, the family of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the highest perfection. So we're not only talking about women or sudras or vaishyas, we're talking about birds. Well, we have an example of a bird. You have Vishnu's carrier, Garuda. He's a bird, right? And he's attained perfection. And then you have lower animals, and you have sinful entities. All these people can revive their original eternal spiritual life and exist forever simply by accepting the principles of Bhakti Yoga. In other words, because we all, everyone, every living entity in the material world, we are all part and parcel of Krishna, we can all attain pure devotional love for Krishna, no matter how far a person has fallen. This is the vision of a devotee, right? Now, the vision of the prejudiced people, like the Mormons, they said, up until the 1960s, they said black people can't join our church because they're not human beings. They actually said that. And then they switched and said, no, now they can join. But for 100 years, they said no blacks can join our temple, and we want to initiate them. We won't even talk to them. They're not human beings. Or else the Nazis, they defined who's worthy of living, who's not worthy of living. So they said that gypsies, communists, Jews, people born with deformities, they don't deserve to live. They're too low class. So we'll just kill them and purify the race, right? So it's not only black people are not human beings. The Nazis defined people who were not worthy of living because they were contaminated. And only the blue-eyed, blonde-haired, Aryan people should live and reproduce. So you see, all these false concepts are there. But Bhagavatam is opening the door to every living entity, not only human beings, even the birds and the animals and so forth. Every living being has an original relationship to Krishna. Therefore, their potential is to go back to Godhead. Therefore, Continue. That is the highest perfection, as Krishna never falls. When we revive our spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness, we never fall again to material existence. One should understand the position of the Supreme Achyuta, Krishna, who says in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chame divyam evan myo veti tatvata tyakvadeham punarjanma naiti mam eti sarjuna. He says, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take birth again, but attains my eternal abode. O Arjuna. So this knowledge of Krishna, now how do you get the knowledge of Krishna? You don't get it in schools. No way. You get the opposite. You learn not to believe in Krishna, to think it's all fairy tales. You get it in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So these are the two most important books for real education. So, therefore, it says, one should understand Achyuta, the Supreme Infallible, and how we are related to him, and one should take to the service of the Lord. This is the perfection of life. Srila Madhavacharya says, Achyutatam Chuti Varjanam. The word Achyutatam refers to one who never falls to the material world, but always remains in the Vaikuntha world, fully engaged in the service of the Lord. So then the last verse of the summary of the perfection of life by Prahlad Maharaj, 7.755, says, in this material world, to render service to the lotus feet of Govinda, the cause of all causes, and to see him everywhere is the only goal of life. This much alone is the ultimate goal of human life as explained by all revealed scriptures. So if you learn this one verse, and you repeat it every day, you will definitely keep your mind on Krishna and go back to Godhead. And it says, in this verse, the words Sarvatra Tad Ikshanam describe the highest perfection of devotional service, in which one sees everything with reference to Govinda's activities. The highly elevated devotee never sees anything unrelated to Govinda. Now he quotes a very important verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 8.274. Stavara jangama deke, na deke tara murti, sarvatra haya nija ista deva spurti. The Mahabhagavat, the advanced devotee, certainly sees everything mobile and immobile, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 8.274. Even in this material world, a devotee does not see materially manifested things. Instead, he sees Govinda in everything. When he sees a tree or a human being, a devotee sees them in relation to Govinda. Govindam Adi Purusham. Govinda is the original source of everything. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Nadir Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda. What does Govinda mean? One who is protecting the cows, right? Is the supreme controller. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, for he is the prime cause of all causes. Brahma Samhita 5.1. The test of a perfect devotee is that he sees Govinda everywhere in this universe, even in every atomic particle. Andantarasta paramanu chayantarastam. This is the perfect vision of a devotee. It is therefore said, Narayana mayam dira pasyanti paramat martina. Jagat dana mayam lubda kamuka kamini mayam. A devotee sees everyone and everything in relation with Narayana, Narayana mayam. Everything is an expansion of Narayana's energy, just as those who are greedy see everything as a source of money-making, and those who are lusty see everything as being conducive to sex. the most perfect devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, saw Narayana even within a stone column. This does not mean, however, that we must accept the words Daridra Narayana, which have been manufactured by some unscrupulous person. Who was that? You know who that is? Is it Vivekananda? Anyway, we should find out. One who actually envisions Narayana everywhere makes no distinction between the poor and the rich. To single out the Daridra Narayana, or poor Narayana, and reject the Dani Narayana, or rich Narayana, is not the vision of a devotee. Rather, that is the imperfect vision of materialistic persons. So it probably was Gandhi who made that phrase. Vivekananda? Okay. Okay, but Gandhi adopted it. Yeah. Okay, so this is profound stuff. If you just repeat this one mantra every day, it keeps your mind on the goal. Just like you want to climb the mountain, you have to keep your eye on the summit. So if you want to reach the goal of Krishna consciousness, you should repeat this mantra. In this material world, to render service to the lotus feet of Govinda, the cause of all causes, and to see him everywhere is the only goal of life. This much alone is the ultimate goal of human life, as explained by all revealed scriptures. Gaur Premanandi Haribol, Gaur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any questions?
Where is the reference for that percentage, the 78%?
Yeah, well, that's in Bhagavad Gita and especially Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yeah.
Prabhupada quoted that, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke it in teaching of Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami. That's Madhya Lila, chapter 20. The teaching of Sanatana Mahaprabhu.
Prabhupada says it's like Vishnu Tattva is 93% of the quality. 93%.
Okay. Haribol. Any other questions? All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Haribol.